Hey guys, Eric and Chris here to talk about the Hannibal Season 3 premiere.
Tasty.
One of my favorite shows, and we had to wait 13 months for it to come back.
It's a long wait.
It's a long wait. It's finally here though. Full spoilers though, if you haven't seen the premiere, we're about to ruin it for you. If you're still with us, let's go. What'd you think after that long wait, Chris?
First of all, one of my things I think is go and watch that last episode before you watch this one.
Yeah.
It'll give you a little bit more context, but yeah, it was an interesting slow burn episode, and it was really just a departure from what they've done previously, because everything was about Will and the FBI. This is completely set in a different place, and it's really its own story just about Hannibal and
Bedelia.
Yeah, Bedelia.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, so Brian Fuller, we were talking before about how at Comic-Con a year ago, he said, yeah, the premiere, we're just going to be about Hannibal and Bedelia. It was an interesting thing to do, of course, though, because we left off with one of the craziest season finales ever.
Yeah.
And you could have...
And one of the best.
And one of the best.
Yeah.
The more traditional way to do this premiere is ambulances pulling up, the like aftermath right away. But no, it's quite a while has passed.
Yeah.
And we are just following Hannibal Bedelia. I really liked it. Like, I understand, like, you know, the wish to know. I want to know what's happened to everyone else. But I did think it was kind of fascinating just to see what are these people's lives like and the artifice they've created, you know, these people of culture.
The thing that it really struck me about it is just it's very sort of like just getting into the pace. One thing I would say about this is if you're not a Hannibal fan, if you're not on board with the show yet, there is no way to come into this and be like, I know what's going on.
Right.
It's like you have to know the backstory for this episode to make any sense. And if you do know that, it's fascinating. It's like you don't see too much art like this happening on network TV, you know? No slag on network TV, it's just not the stuff they make.
No.
This is more like a cable series. And even for cable, I feel like it gets a little esoteric at times.
It does.
And a little bit like, it gets a little bit into imagery and symbolism and stuff like that. There's a sequence in the show where it's almost like a verbatim symbol for what's happening in the scene. He steps over this, like, he crosses this path of blood.
Yeah.
And it's like a symbol for like her sort of participation in this, basically in this murder that's taking place.
Yeah.
And him questioning her about it. And the sort of like mental jousting that's going on in that scene is really fascinating.
Yeah, the show, it's not like the show is just introducing sort of dreamlike quality and imagery, but this premiere definitely dived deep in that, you know? And her sinking into the tub, you know, floating down into like the water, like it was an ocean below. And a lot of just observational moments. You're right that network TV would almost never do quiet moments. You know, her walking through the streets of Florence, beautiful imagery. Again, Hannibal looks better than almost any show on TV.
Yeah.
And they actually shot a few days in Florence, which is amazing. But yeah, just a very quiet, ness to it, and we're just watching these people. But of course, the interesting thing being that we know that he's capable of this horrific violence. We've seen him do it. And the show has this subtle sense of humor that I really like. Like I loved, when he's, kind of nonchalantly saying about like, I've hardly killed anyone during a residence here,
Yeah, no, I know. There are some really funny moments like that. Even little things like where you can kind of joke to yourself, like the first time he meets the dude that they end up actually killing at the end of the episode, you can tell in the moment when he's like, oh, it takes me 8 months to write a line of a poem.
Right.
Right then he's like, I'm gonna kill this guy.
Right.
I'm gonna kill this guy. Like, and I you kind of feel the same way. It's like, God, what a douche. And this guy thinks he's like playing in the big leagues.
Yeah.
And he is so not.
There was there was an interesting aspect of the show too, which was the flashbacks to Gideon.
Yes.
Which, on one hand, it was like, oh, why are we even doing this? Why do we need to revisit it? But there was some very interesting moments there, and kind of made me think of that about like that character Anthony. And I thought that actor was very good at playing a guy who, he thinks like, oh yeah, I'm with you, Hannibal. Like, isn't that guy an a-hole? And we can bond on this. But Hannibal's like, no, And I really liked in the flashbacks when Gideon said something to him about cannibalism, and Hannibal's like, it's not cannibalism unless we're equals, Well, he kind of says it all about this character because he doesn't think almost anyone's an equal.
That actually could be like the log line of the show. I mean, if there's one actual line of dialogue that summarizes what Hannibal is as a character, it's that. It's like, this is my worldview. And, like he obviously his whole thing is killing and consuming people, and he does it for a reason. And I mean, I don't think the reason is purely that he feels superior.
Yeah.
It's like, this is his predilection for whatever reason, but Oh man, that's such a great line, and such a it was like tucked away there in amongst a lot of good lines in those flashback sequences.
Yeah.
Basically, anytime you have a person, being force-fed his own body, like there's a lot of room for reflection in those sequences. If you're going to do
so
it
gross
slow
if you think about what's happening.
It is so disgusting.
Right.
And when he brings out that whole tray, there's a couple really disgusting images in this. One is that when he brings out the whole tray with all the stuff sticking out of it, and then the final like framed sort of trophy piece, basically, that ends the episode, which is kind of like saying, okay, we're going to do this here now. You know, like this is basically the guy that we just killed. We're putting him on display as a piece of art.
Yeah.
And he's going to create mysteries over there now.
Right, because it had been like he'd been kind of keeping quiet, and now it's like this is his like, all right, it's time to sort of awaken here.
But the thing that I think is the crux of this particular episode is Bedelia's struggle with what she is, and actually they have a very literal conversation about if she's a participant or an observer.
Yeah.
And he's like, basically, by you getting this guy to come here, you're a participant.
Yeah, they also were smart to have a line of dialogue, because last year, I mean, we went pretty far into Hannibal being almost supernatural in his skills, because with Miriam, when she came back, Anna Clemsey's character, and he'd so just manipulated her mind into thinking one thing was happening. So you did, when season 2 ended, you're like, what's going on here? Has he basically taken control of Bedelia? But she has direct lines basically saying, I believe I'm in control, yet she's saying it in this kind of ethereal way because she can't quite figure out, what am I doing here? Yeah. And I think it's interesting to kind of the observation of just how twisted is she. She kind of acts like she's not, but as Hannibal, as you said, Hannibal's kind of calling her out on that.
I also got this like note of like she is trying to understand him through doing these things, which is like, okay, that's pretty extreme. You must be really, really curious about this dude's mind to be like, oh, I should try this out and see how see how it feels. But that was one of the things I got a sense of her. But also real sadness from her character. Like she's caught in this like impossible situation. She's kind of having an identity crisis at the same time, and it should be this beautiful life that they're sharing. But like huge violent undercurrent.
Did you notice who played the corpse when we got the flashback to that incident, the infamous incident with her patient? That was Zachary Quinto.
Oh, wow.
Which was very funny because I thought it was him, and then I remembered reading that he was going to be in the season, but then I saw the closing credits, it was him, and I was like, that would be hysterical if that was it. But it's not. I talked to Brian Fuller, and there will be another episode.
Oh yeah, I didn't realize that. And what happened there? Like that's. I want to know more about what that happened there
because Hannibal is clearly saying, hey, look, there's no signs here that he attacked you. She's saying it was self-defense. Hannibal is telling her, well, it doesn't look like self-defense. But of course, we don't know how much of that is true or it's Hannibal trying to push her in a certain direction.
I mean, I'm sure she's getting pushed. Like he is. Yeah. He is almost always the dominant force in any relationship that he's in, and I feel like he is just a master manipulator. I'd love to see him manipulated back. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say real quick is Will, like, almost being set up like it's his like BFF or muse or something like that. Like, I mean, I know they were talking about that all last season, but it's like it's still being talked about, and she's mentioning it, and Gideon is mentioning it. Like, oh, you miss Will. What's going on with Will? Like, everybody poking around at that. So.
Yeah, because of course that relationship has been the core one. But I just wonder like how much with he's manipulating Bedelia, but was it that there was that thing inside her and he saw that it would be like, I can kind of flip a switch and bring this out?
Here's the other thing that really stuck out about the Gideon passages. He keeps on saying, how are you going to feel when this is turned on you?
Right.
How are you going to feel when this is turned on you? And it's like, what do you know that we don't? Like, to me, I mean, we know where he ends up in Silence of the Lambs, but like to me, he seems uncatchable. Right. Even though he flaunts his.
Yeah, I don't think it is that Gideon knew something specifically, but just was like, maybe it was the Gideon because Gideon was in his own way, was a brilliant psychopath, and he's like, well, if I was undone, then it's going to be everyone's turn, including yours.
Right.
And I'm very curious, and I think we all are on this show, is that true? And if so, who will be responsible?
Yeah, definitely.
So kind of a slow-paced premiere, but at the same time, there was a ton of going on. The show always gives us so much to analyze. Yeah. I'm sure it's going to continue this season, so for more on Hannibal, keep it here at IGN.